Today, we're talking about a brand new model from Mistral AI, and this thing tackles one of the biggest challenges out there in AI, getting it to truly listen.
You know, we've all seen AIs that can spit out text or even talk back to us. But there's a world of difference between just hearing words and, really understanding the full context of a long conversation, like a whole meeting or a lecture. It's a massive hurdle, teaching an AI the art of listening. And that's exactly what we're going to get into.
And that's where this new model from Mistral AI called Voxtral enters the picture. Now, don't just think of it as another speech-to-text tool. No. This thing is built to actually comprehend both the spoken audio and the text. And that could totally change the game for how we interact with technology.
All right, so let's get into it. What is this new contender, really? And what makes it so different from all the other AI models we're already used to hearing about?
Okay, so Voxtral is what's called a multimodal model. And really, that's just a fancy way of saying it gets more than one type of data. In this case, both audio and text. But here's the real kicker. It's open source. A lot of the big, powerful models out there, they're locked down, they're proprietary, but Mistral went and made Voxtral free for anyone to use, to peek under the hood and to build on top of. And for innovation, that is a huge deal.
Okay, being open source is fantastic. A great start for sure. But what really gives Voxtral its edge? Let's break down what actually makes this thing a powerhouse.
First up is its memory. And this is a big one. Voxtral can handle up to 40 minutes of continuous audio. Just think about that for a second. That means it can sit in on an entire company meeting, a whole college lecture, or a long interview, and it understands everything from start to finish. It doesn't lose the plot halfway through. That is a total game changer.
And Mistral was pretty smart about this. They didn't just release one version. They gave us two for two totally different needs. You've got Voxtral Mini, which is smaller, super efficient, and designed to run right there on your own computer. Then for the really tough jobs, there's Voxtral Small, a much bigger, much more powerful model for those complex tasks where you need every last bit of performance.
So, this all sounds pretty amazing, right? But how did they actually do it? Let's peel back the layers and look at the really clever engineering that makes Voxtral work. It really comes down to this elegant three-part system. Think of it like this. First, you've got the ear. This part is actually based on OpenAI's famous Whisper model. And its job is to take that raw audio and translate it into something the AI can read. Then comes the filter. This is a really smart adapter layer that compresses all that audio data down to a manageable size so it doesn't just overload everything. And finally, you have the brain, a powerful language decoder that takes everything, the audio, the text, and figures out what it all means to give you a smart answer. And the way they trained it is just as clever. They use two main tricks. The first is called audio-to-text repetition. You can basically think of this like drilling with flashcards, over and over just to make it a perfect transcriber, an incredibly accurate typist. But then, there's the second part, cross-modal continuation. This is way more like having an actual conversation. It teaches the model to get the context, to figure out what's coming next, and that's what turns it from just a transcriber into a real thinker.
Okay, so the theory is solid, the architecture is smart, but does it actually perform? You know, when the rubber meets the road. Let's check out the benchmarks and see how Voxtral really stacks up against the big guys.
So for speech recognition, the number you care about is the word error rate. And just remember, for this one, lower is better. And look at this. Voxtral Small nails it. It comes out on top with a lower error rate than both GPT-4o Mini and Gemini 2.5 Flash. To put it simply, it just makes fewer mistakes.
And that's not all. That top-level performance carries right over into speech translation. Now, for this test, a higher score is what you want to see. And, yep, once again, Voxtral Small is way ahead of the competition. This shows it's not just great at understanding one language, it's also incredibly good at translating between them.
But, performance isn't a one-and-done thing. Mistral kept tweaking it. They used this process called online DPO, which is basically a way for the model to learn from feedback and get even smarter over time. I mean, look at the numbers. The base model was already scoring a really high 4.16 out of 5 for quality, but after this refinement, it jumps up to 4.38. So this isn't just about being more factually correct, it's about learning to give answers that are actually more helpful and just better.
And this right here is maybe the most crucial point of all. Voxtral got all these amazing new audio skills without losing any of its power as a text model. That's why it's a perfect drop-in replacement. It's like a Swiss Army knife for developers. Suddenly you can use one single model for both audio and text jobs. It really is the best of both worlds.
All right, so let's zoom out for a second and look at the big picture here. Why does a model like this actually matter so much for the future of tech?
So let's just quickly recap the Voxtral advantage. What makes it so special? 1. It's truly open source, putting top-tier power into anyone's hands. 2. Its performance goes toe-to-toe with and often beats the big closed-source models. 3. It can handle a massive 40 minutes of audio. 4. It does all that without losing its killer tech skills. And 5. You can even run a powerful version right on your own device. This isn't just another model, folks. This is a huge leap forward for making AI accessible to everyone.
And that brings us to a final, pretty big thought to leave you with. For so long, we've just been talking at our devices, right? But now, with an AI that can actually listen, that can actually understand, that whole relationship is poised to change completely. So the question isn't if our conversations with tech will be different anymore. The real question is, how are we going to talk to machines that can finally, truly understand us?